Man, it's always something, isn't it? But here we are. We have success. We have achieved Streamish. I made some changes, as I do always before the show, because I never should, and hopefully the world waits. How am I doing for deep voice? That was my big attack for the day. Okay, live. I'll settle for live. Okay, voice is good. If it goes deep, let me know. I beg your pardon. Been outside. Camera looks clear. Yeah, I found the Windex. Thank you all. Very good. Now we got more moderators here than we have regular viewers. I should just make everybody a moderator. Well, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are on the planet. And welcome to ADRAMADA. It's going to be a fun show. So looking forward to this. ADRAMADA and another Dave Rush Ask Me Anything Digital Alchemy. And I am Dave Rush, as abbreviated in the title. And we're here because we like tech. We like to talk tech. I got a shiny forehead in there. That's why I wear the hat. Yeah, that's the reason. It's been a light tech week in tech news. I managed to scrape up some stuff, but it's not stuff that I'm proud of. But anyway, we got all kinds of things to talk about. We got a fun project, and Scott's here, so I'm all ready to reminisce on last week's show. Shiny bits. Oh. Today, if you're not watching this live, you're watching it on the archive, we get about 10 to 50 times viewership on the archive than we do on the live show. And I don't know what that's telling me. Does it say we should do a daytime show? I threw something out last week that said, maybe we do 2 a week, a live show in the daytime, then maybe a short one and a long form. I don't know. Toss me your ideas. Do it on the Discord server. I'll post that link in just a moment. Anyway, today is December 14th. We are halfway through the last month of the year. There's 2 more shows left in the year. And then it's done. So welcome one and all, Eep, Op, Orc, here comes the Discord invitation. You'll be able to just click on this link directly if you so choose. Come on over, join. We people are drabbly joining the Discord, right? And it's funny. It's almost always, not always, but almost always, people that we know from other platforms and other planets and other worlds. So it's really kind of fun. Who came in today? You will all recognize the name. Somebody will go pop over there and check the greetings page. And it'll get mentioned. If for some odd reason you would like to get in contact with me, you can do so. Just kick a message off on the Discord server. If I'm awake, I'm logged in. If I'm logged in, Discord is honking at me constantly. The ADRAMADA Discord, the other Discords in which I'm a member. But if you would rather do it in a somewhat more private format, here are a couple email addresses that you can use and send me a note. Okay, what do we got here? Did I do that? No, I don't think I did. Okay. Anyways, so a little bit of recap. Last week, we were honored by a visit from one of our attendees and mods here today, old friend Scott Jernigan. We fell into our old co-hosting routine and then turned the show over to Scott for a presentation on cellular G standards and Wi-Fi standards and the practical uses that he's both researched and encountered. It was a fascinating show. I have gotten emails that said, wow. I've gotten comments on LinkedIn that said, wow. I'm paraphrasing. So good, exciting stuff. Scott, you have a standing invitation anytime, anywhere to join the show, to do the show. You know what? I got a great idea, Dave, but it only works if I do the show. Here you go. Here's the codes. Knock yourself out. So do enjoy. Today, we are going back to Raspberry Pi roots because I like doing that. I have 7 shows all lined up that I'm going to talk about, and they're always, ready to go or ready to develop. And then I'll run into something and say, "Oh my gosh, we got to do that!" And the answer, I ran across this day or so after the show last week and said, "We are doing Alpine Linux." And I didn't even know what the trigger was. Maybe somebody posted a link to I'm running Alpine, and it's really cool. I don't think it was anybody. Hey, Jason H is here. Jason, you're about to get mentioned, so perfect timing. At any rate, so I found this thing, and I said, well, I'm going to go out and I'm going to do some research on it. And then I sat on it for a day or so thinking about it. And then I said, well, I got to try it. And I could not delay the trial because I had a couple of days I had to be out of town this week, and while I did take a laptop, it takes more than me sitting in front of a laptop to do research and development. I have to take a Pi at least. So I guess Sunday, no, I left Sunday, I don't know, sometime over the weekend, I did an installation on it, and that was the interesting part of it all. This article that I found and subsequent ones that I found were all build-it-yourself distro. And I was coming to believe that, we could do a build-it-yourself distro, but we couldn't do it in one show. It wasn't difficult. It's very easy to do. Follow the 30 to 60 steps, but I hate stretching shows out or topics out over multiple shows. And I'm head scratching and thinking, well, I'm going to have to abandon this and go to one of the other ones, and they're all good. And then I thought, I didn't think. I was just poking around their site and said, huzzah, they have an ISO. Does that really work? And so that killed a long evenings downloading and burning and installing and testing, and wow, so quick, so easy, so cool. So that's where we're going this way. Alpine Linux is tiny. It's not the smallest Linux distro out there on the planet, but it is really, really very small. Installs with about 130 megs of space. It's super secure. It is insanely efficient. If you want to install a container, the overhead is 8 megabytes per container. So if you're wondering what to do with that old 2 gigabit or gigabyte micro SD card and a Pi 2B, or an old laptop that's only got, a 100 gig hard drive or a 20 or 30 gig hard drive, this is your answer, Alpine. There's 2 shows left in the year, 2 show dates, a week from today and 2 weeks from today. And Christmas falls right in the middle of them. It's on a Monday. So we are not planning on traveling anywhere at this moment. I believe that ADRAMADA is going to have shows on those days. And I've got 2 topics that I can do for them. One of them is going to be, at the excellent suggestion of Jason Helms, the Windows Firewall. The other one is how to add or change a desktop or GUI to a Linux server. Or Linux client, I suppose, if it's already got a desktop, or we're going to do a Christmas special. I don't know. So, but for the moment, on the 21st and 28th, there will be shows. They may wind up being short shows, but it'll be a nice way to close out the year. Today is Thursday, December 14th. The 13th and 14th is the annual peak of the Geminids meteor shower. So I put out a little bit of a notice last night on a couple of Discord servers, and that was it. I should have put something out much earlier. I hope you got a chance to see it. I went out multiple times, and it was cloudy here. So I got my good view 10 days ago when I got to see the shuttle pass. Not the shuttle, the ISS. And so I had to pay for it with cloudy skies. We have been planning for 2 years where we're going to go on April 8th of next year. What's on April 8th of next year? I'm glad you asked. You should already know this, of course. Over North America and over the United States, starting in a line from my original stomping grounds, Lorain, Ohio, there will be a 2.5-hour pass that runs from there in pretty much a straight line through Big Bend, Texas. It's going to be a little over by Austin. And so I don't know if I'm going to Ohio. I certainly have plans and reservations and folks where we're staying who are equally enamored with the event. But you know, we're bouncing it all. Is that going to be the right thing to do? Would it be better to stay here and go visit family in Austin and thereabouts? So I don't know. But if you haven't planned it out yet, April 8th, 2.5-hour total eclipse of the sun over North America. It's going to be a good one. And the last thing, in section 1 of my outline, I sprained my arm on Monday afternoon. I had a gig in the Austin area, and I'm an idiot. You know that. I can't do my part of it and walk away, especially with these nice folks that I'm working with. So I help out. I provide labor. And we were pretty well done with a somewhat complicated setup, and we're starting to move the stuff out of the presentation room where they're doing their thing into a next door room. And sometime during that event, we had a bunch of wooden chairs that were going to go on the stage. They're not ready to go on the stage yet for other reasons. And so I had them all shoved off in some area to clear a path. So there's 2 of us moving a cart. I'm in the front of the cart walking backward, and the other guy is pushing the cart from behind, walking forward. And I knew we were going beside where I had moved the chairs, so left myself free space. Somebody had moved the chairs, and I tripped over one. And I turned, and I threw out my arm to break my fall, and instead I broke my arm. Okay, I broke my fall too. I didn't break it, but it's so badly sprained that I can lift with my left hand a dry tea bag out of the package. But when I put it in the cup and it becomes soaked, I'm not strong enough to lift it out. My arm is so weak. I am doing everything either right-handed or two-handed. So acetaminophen and ibuprofen. I ordered a sling today. Not because I think a sling is going to help it heal, but to help remind me to not use this because I'm an idiot. I put tarps on trailers yesterday, screaming and crying all throughout. But it's got to be done. All right. Well, let's see who's here and what's going on in the world, and then move on to tech news of the week. Everybody's here. All right, Patricia Grace talking to Scott, the only, with celebrity shades. In comes Jason Helms. Oh, and of course, Tullowit and Patricia Grace got here before the show started, as ever and always. Tullowit got in half an hour prior. Patricia Grace 10 minutes prior. And then Scott right on the money 3 minutes prior. So glad to see you as ever and always. Man, we get so much exciting stuff going on with Scott. Scott, I did hear from the that contact today right after the email that you sent out, and I have not responded to him yet. I will first thing in the morning. I'm very excited to see where that goes. Jason Helms wants to know, how's it going? And everything is well here other than injured arms. About to ask, where's Jason? And we were all panicking last week. Where's Tullowit? Where's Patricia Grace? But everybody wound up turning up. I remember you had asked about Firewall Show. That's exactly right. So I haven't started the research on that. I'll have 6 days to do it. Thank you, who communicated with me on back channel just now. fragile. It must be Is that a car? Or my arm? I don't know if you know this. Everybody knows my last name is Rush, and that's of Germanic descent. My father's side of the family is German. My mother's side of the family splits between former Czechoslovakian and Italian. We were Angelized. We were Schmitz und Angelized. So we can really whip up a kitchen full of a variety of stuff. I'm not French. I don't surrender. I didn't say that. I love the French. I know. I've said that a million times. Yeah, so if you're in Texas or anywhere in that line, man, go catch that eclipse. If I stay here and if somebody wants to come and hang for the day, I'll put you up. I got to know you. The hundreds of people who watch these on archive who are total strangers, let me get to know you first before I put you up. But I probably would. Oh, I know. So many folks from Ohio. Does anybody ever stay there? Oh, I certainly do. We get there 4 or 5 times a year. My wife has spent a lot of time there in the last year. Both of her parents passed or so in the last 2 years. Both of my parents passed. They were Ohioans and in Ohio in the last 3 years. So we've spent more than our share. Thank you, Patricia Grace. I'm over it. We move along. I am the eldest of the household, or of the family, so there's uncles who are older, of course, but I am now the family patriarch. I don't know what that means. Time for a raspberry-powered exoskeleton. Absolutely. I should make that tea dunker, because I do have a cup of tea every day. That'd be so cool. Well, I need to get out and visit some of you folks. And likewise, if I ever get out there, oh, y'all, please, anybody who gets anywhere within 200 miles, I will come and see you if you can't get 200 miles to see me. Maybe more. Okay, well, how are we doing here? We're in good shape here. Let's talk tech news for 10 minutes or so. Update on Raspberry Pi. I didn't check today. And I got another machine up and running that's got that page. So give me a second to look, not that page, this one. And the answer is, what is still not shipped yet? Okay, no change in status of Raspberry Pi. But in keeping with, what are we doing here? This thing. I got slides, so we got to do slides, right? In order. Image slideshow, that goes up there. Embedded camera, that goes up there. We transition. And then we move slides. So there was the Raspberry Pi slide in all of its glory. Here's some neat tech. I love language that we all use and have no idea what it means. I've used this term much of my life. Probably you have too. You've certainly read it, and you just accept it at face value to sterling silver. Okay? That's got to be good stuff, right? And sterling silver is good stuff. It's 92.5% silver, and that's why the marking on sterling silver stuff says 925. It's 92.5%. The sterling silver standard has a minimum amount of silver of 925, but there's typically a full 7.5% of other metals, and the other metal is usually copper. So here's the problem. Silver is soft. It's not as soft as gold, but it's pretty soft, and so they alloy it with copper to increase both hardness and strength. The problem is, this is why you have to polish the silver. It's not because the silver tarnishes, it's because the copper in it tarnishes. And it's what turns your fingers green and all of that good stuff. Now you can change out copper and have a more expensive metal alloy and get rid of the tarnishing problem, but the other side of the coin from sterling silver, fine silver. 99.9% pure, 999. There may be a microscopic amount of other elements in there, but fine silver doesn't tarnish. So I was just, I ran across the term sterling silver and said, I don't think I want to take that term for granted anymore. I would like to know what it means. Moving along. Voyager 1 was launched 46 years ago, give or take, to head out into the cosmos. Take some measurements of some stuff on the way, keep measuring stuff as you go, and go forever until you can't. Either you hit something or you go based on momentum, but you run out of fuel or whatever. And of course, in 46 years, think of a computer 46 years ago. Most of us can't. I can't. But they had them. And they glitch out every now and again. And it's space. Space is hard. We all know that. So there's more than one computer in there. And the computer has failed on occasion or it's glitched. And they have been able to fix it every time. Right now, Voyager 1 is 15 billion miles away. It's in the passing the Oort cloud, and in a couple more years, no matter what happens, it's going to keep moving unless something hits it. It's going to go beyond the outer Kuiper belt, and that's it. Then it's out in the cosmos. Well, a couple of days ago, it started spewing random bits. Now, it takes about 22 and a half hours for a message to get from Voyager 1 to Earth. And likewise for us to send one to it. So, right now, the heads over at NASA are digging through 46-year-old computer documents, trying to figure out what's wrong and how to fix it and what commands they're going to send to it. And it's fun. It's interesting. It's fascinating. They're hoping it will make it to 50 years. There's not much light out there to provide light for the solar arrays. The generators are dying. The batteries don't have much recharge life in them. So maybe it lives. Maybe it makes it to 50 years. Maybe not. And there are a lot of folks in the scientific community who are saying, look, last gasp, we may never be able to communicate with this thing again if you do get this going. Let's not send fix instructions to it because that may actually, kill it. Let us send a final message, not to it, maybe included that in the final message. Oh, by the way, speeds, 8,000 bits per second, 100 billion instructions. It can process 8,000 instructions per second. But I did not pull down the data transfer rate on there. At any rate, so they're thinking sending some kind of final message to it and have that stay in ROM so that if and when it's ever discovered again, maybe when we go interstellar and say, hey, there's that old Voyager 1, let's pick it up and stick it in a museum, they could read the final message, or maybe someone other than us will get it. So, cool stuff. See, I did the Geminids, but that was not an image of last night. It might have been an image of last night. I just went and grabbed an image, but I forgot that I had included this in the thing, so we can roll past that. What are we looking at here, Dave? You are looking at Brainoware. What's Brainoware? That is lab-grown brain tissue that has been integrated onto a microchip, and it works. Indiana University, Bloomington, under the team lead of a gent named Fen Guo, fed it tasks like speech recognition and math problems such as nonlinear equation prediction. It was slightly less accurate than a pure hardware computer running an AI. But it was 80% accurate. But after they had a number of voices send it a series of Japanese vowel sounds, and then its job was to identify the speaker, a particular speaker. So after we get all these people who send their vowel sounds into it, then they pick one of them at random and say, now say something different, but don't try and disguise your voice, and we'll see if it can figure you out. 80% of the time, got it right. So, and there's so much magic going on here. The fact that they could integrate bio neurons onto electrodes, traditional wire electrodes. It's incredible. I don't know if it's good. I don't know if it's bad. But there it is. They did 240 audio clips from 8 male speakers making Japanese vowel sounds, and then asked to identify one specific individual's voice. So, interesting stuff. Look it up if you're so interested. I did not do a slide for this next thing. Here's a headline. I just didn't want to go down this rabbit hole. So I'm categorizing this as make of this what you will. Ready? Almost 40% of people with dementia don't seem to know they have it. That sounds like the punchline of a joke or the setup of a joke. No, that was a headline in a major scientific publication. So I may be operating here with dementia and not know it. I probably am. All right, moving on. Almost done. I only did 7 stories today. Geekbench. Have you ever used Geekbench? It's a benchmark utility for your Windows computer. And then it was extended to support Macintoshes, Apple Macs. And the latest version of Geekbench, my slide says Geekbench 5, Geekbench 6 came out, and it's called Geekbench ML.6. It's a machine learning one. It supports Linux, the Linux desktop, the Linux, all kinds of pieces. So if you haven't played with Geekbench, Patricia Grace, it should work just great on your Mint. Give that a stab. It's got built-in TensorFlow. So what they did is they took Geekbench and said, all right, well, now let's not just do the usual measurements. They've added new features that ML can take advantage of. Depth estimation, a workload simulator that works on common camera effects, software effects. Style transfer, a workload that simulates how generative AI functions for common use cases like copying styles of a photo. And image super resolution simulates AI-powered image upscaling. So it's an interesting thing. Since we were doing Raspberry Pi today, I thought it was noteworthy we should talk about Raspberry Pi operating system in the news. As we know, Bookworm came out in October or so. In a report from 9to5linux.com, we all know this. Bookworm came out, it was buggy. It was designed to come out at the same time as the new Raspberry Pi 5, which has a new processor, and they wanted to use the newest, latest, greatest kernel, or pretty close to it. And there was a lot of changes that weren't and aren't fully working with the new Bookworm. But they are working thick and fast, and there's whole bunches of improvements on the new Bookworm that came out in the last 2 days. Came out the latest. It got a new dark theme for GTK. What do we got here? Working on kernel 6.1. That's a good thing. It's not the newest and latest and greatest, but it's a lot newer than anything they've got. Anything else? Yeah, there's a few more things here that was interesting, but you can read up on it. Just go to raspberrypi.com and check out the release notes. New core apps are updated with this release, and one of them is WaveVNC. WaveVNC, that's one of the big broken pieces was real VNC. You had to use the Tiger VNC client because they've switched to the Wayland image processing engine. So now there's a Wayland processor for VNC, and that's going to help things out, going back to the old way of doing VNC. And that is all the news that's fit to print. That takes us there. Checking notes here. Did that. Sorry, okay. I know where we're going next. So let's see where you are. Who's belt got? I got to go back and figure that out. Raspberry Pi. Party at Dave's is right. Okay. V'ger. Yep. Whose belt got loose? All of ours. I don't know anybody who's coming to me saying, man, I'm picking up weight. Though it is the season, right? Jason says, with all these terms like cookie bites and bits and kernel, whoever came up with these terms, just hungry. You're exactly right. Very nice. Hey, well, let's get a project going then. This project caused me to stop. There are a number of projects that I've wanted to do with you that I haven't been able to because I can't do much sharing the way I'm set up. And so I sat down in the last 3 days and said, I've got to address this. And I have. I have a solution. I've ordered it. It'll take a week or two for it to get in and for me to get configured. But until that happens, when I do creative things like this, I have a choice. I can either say, hey, let's not do it. We'll talk about it someday when I get a solution, and I don't love that idea. Or just talk you through some of it and show you the rest. And that's where we are today. But I did find a nice bit of improvement. So I'm going to talk about Alpine Linux, talk about the initial steps, and then move into using it and show you the secondary and tertiary steps. So what we're going to do today is install Alpine Linux on Raspberry Pi. It is, of course, available for x86 and 64 platforms. It's available for Mac platforms and other platforms. AlpineLinux.org is your place to start research. And what's so great about it? This is different. Alpine Linux is an independent, non-commercial, general-purpose Linux distro designed for power users. This thing comes out, it's a text user interface. By default, you can add desktops to it, and I'll show you some of them that you can. But its design, its raison d'etre, is to be a server to host service platforms. It's simple. It's got amazingly built-in security for certain pieces that not everybody's doing. I'll show you that. And it's fantastic for resource efficiency. Their wiki, the Alpine wiki, says their ARM images support all RPIs from RPI 1. There was no RPI 1, so I'm a little concerned about that wiki. It started with the B, then it went to the A, and then it went to 2. So I guess the B's and A's are 1s, but their wiki says from RPI 1 through RPI 5, including 0 versions. But there isn't one image or one piece of operating system that handles all of them. They broke them up into 3 different operating systems, one for the early versions and one for the mid versions and so forth. I'll show you those in a moment. Their wiki tells you how to install it on a Raspberry Pi, and their method is to do it RAM based. So you boot it up from boot media and everything goes into RAM. That's not persistent by definition. Next time you boot it, you lose everything, right? So they give you the steps to provide persistence. It's basically a backup thing that says, okay, whenever you do something in here, you also use Alpine local backup, and that saves any changes that you've made, like adding an application or making a new user or saving a file. You'll be working in RAM, but then this backup program will put it on your storage media. So next time you boot it up, the RAM image boots up, and then the Alpine backup utility picks up all of those things that have been saved to physical storage and puts them in RAM, and you're still operating from RAM. So that's kind of cool. But while it's not complicated, it's got a lot of steps. And I started down the road. I even finished it. It took about an hour and a half, 2 hours to get soup to nuts. And I thought, that's just not a good show. And I was ready to abandon, but I was poking around, and I said, hey, look what I found. All right, so I'll show you that in a second. So what are the benefits of Alpine Linux? Well, it's built around some very efficient, very practical libraries. BusyBox. We did a show on BusyBox. I think I got a link in here coming up way back in the drama days. BusyBox is a collection of all the usual commands that you're used to. Who am I, and ls, and copy CP and MV and all that stuff. And they took them and they stripped them down and got rid of all of the seldom used switches. And it makes it very, very, very small, like 3 megabytes or some insane number like that. So these aren't full-blown versions of the commands, but they're the versions that covers mostly what you need. And if you ever need all the weird switches that come with the CP command, you can download install the real CP command and get that stuff back. But this is one of those places where BusyBox just belongs. Okay, so you download, it's about 60 megs. You install, it's about 90 megs. When it expands and does everything, grows to about 130 megs. Their binary packages, the stuff in their repositories, are thinned out and split, gives you more control over what you install, keeps your environment small and efficient. All that piles up as small. It's simple. I'll show you the simpleness. We'll use it. They don't use the usual package managers that we've used here for 3 or 4 years now doing this. They don't use apt, and they don't use snap, and they don't use DNF, and they don't use yum. They use their own proprietary thing called the Alpine Package Manager. The command to run it is APK, and we'll use some APK. It's cool. And you can always add all these other things if you prefer them, but that's, if you want that stuff, use a different OS. This thing is kind of self-contained, and it's really nice. It's clean. It's efficient. It doesn't require a tremendous amount of dependencies for most of their things. Runs iSCSI. It'll run an iSCSI storage controller. Wafer thin mail servers, containers. Great machine for doing pfSense. It's secure. Alpine Linux designed with security in mind. All the userland binaries are compiled using a technique called PIE. I'm not going to get into it. It's position independent executables, but basically it's a way of compressing the file that says hackers can't get in and add anything else. There's no room in here. It's been stack smashed. So because of its small size and security, it's great in embedded systems, in older systems, in low performance systems, in systems with low space. It can be run diskless, making it really fast on slow systems. Came out in 05. The current release is version 3.19. It started out as an embedded distribution for wireless routers. It was based on Gentoo Linux. Founded by a gentleman named Nathaniel Kopa, who is still running the show over there since 2005. If you don't like the text-based interface, there are 2 choices for you. You could install a desktop, or they have a web server-based tool. You plug this tool in. The desktop is still TUI, but now you can access it through a standard web browser and manage the whole system through a web browser on another computer. So I'm using an ARPi 4 today because it was what in front of me, and whatever it was running I didn't need to run, and So I just grabbed it. But again, we can run this all the way back to Raspberry Pi Bs and As. Just got to use the right version. So if you were going to do this project on your own, and I encourage you because it's really, really, really simple, you're going to need a Raspberry Pi, any version, a power supply, and an enclosure. You're going to need a micro SD card. A small one is fine. You can do this on a 2 gigabyte one. I would do this on 16 as a normal minimum. Of course, you're going to need a micro SD burner. And what you do is, if you haven't already, you go to balena.io and download the current version of Balena Etcher. And what you're going to wind up downloading from the site is going to be a gzip file, ends in .gz, which Windows still doesn't speak. It speaks tar, but it doesn't speak gz. So you're going to have to download, install from 7-zip.org, 7-zip. And it would help after the install so that you can update it, that you connect your Raspberry Pi to a network. The Alpine Wiki. Let me give you a link to the Alpine Wiki. Wiki. No, not that one. This. Okay, there we go. And if you go to that wiki, you're going to encounter some information that I have captured and placed on a slide. Because that's just the kind of guy I am. I know, I had some faces in there. There's the wiki if you want to. If you're watching this on archive and you didn't pull it out, it's in the chat. But if you don't want to pull out the chat, just pause here and type this in manually. Woo. Don't transition. Move forward. There we go. So here's the compatibility list. There's 6 different downloads. 2 for each of these families of Pis. There's the ARM HF for Raspberry Pi A's and B's, 0Ws, and the first compute model. You can read the rest. So I'm going to use the most current one. I'm using a Raspberry Pi 4 here. So we'll be using the ARCH, the ARM Architecture 64. Let me do something here. All right, so here's the process. You start by going to the downloads folder, the Alpine Linux.org/downloads. Just go to alpinelinux.org. You'll see the downloads. I made a slide, and I didn't think it was this order. So stand by. Let me check something here. Slide 17 is Balena Etcher. Okay, and then the next slide is the downloads. So there are tons and tons and tons of downloads on this page, and they're all categorized. Above the chunk that you're seeing here, in the upper left-hand corner is standard. And there is a downloadable natural ISO. It's not a GZ file. I didn't test that one. It looks like it should work, but I tested this one first. It worked. So over here in the brown, it says Raspberry Pi. There's 2 links here to begin with for the Raspberry Pi 4. And you have to look very, very, very closely at the links that show up when you hover over them to see that there's something different about them. The second one has in its file name IMG. The upper one does not have IMG. You need the IMG file. So you're going to download that, and then you have to un-gzip it, and then you'll get an IMG file in your file system. Now you use Balena Etcher, and you select the extracted ISO file. You, of course, have your micro SD plugged into your micro SD burner, plugged into your computer. You'll be able to select that here from SD card, and then you just hit flash and walk away. It's not very big. It's done in under a minute. Nice stuff. All right, that's it for the slides. Let's go back to this thing. Okay, so you've now burned it to your micro SD. Power off your Pi. If it's not already configured, get it set up. You're going to need initially a monitor and keyboard. You won't need a mouse. There's ways to even do it totally headless, but it's a lot easier. You've got an HDMI monitor lying around. You've got a mouse you can borrow off one of your other computers. So pop in your micro SD card, connect a monitor and a keyboard, and power it up. And what comes up, let me set up a share here so you can see this. Image slideshow. No, I want putty. You go up there, and let's see if I can get my face in that and transition it. All right. So I have installed it. When you boot it up, it looks like a standard, every run-of-the-mill Windows or Linux textual boot up, and it brings you to a prompt that is not a $ prompt. It's a # prompt. You have to configure it first, and to configure it, what you'll do is at that # prompt, it'll be sitting there waiting for you to log in, and the default login is root. What a stunner. No password. So you log in as root, no password, and now you're sitting at this # prompt. And all you have to do is run the following command. I'm logged in as a low power user right now. And so I'm doing a test that I started, but I didn't finish. But I want you to see some of the menus here. You do setup -Alpine. And you're going to get a list of questions that you have to answer. And if you don't know the answer to it, just accept the default. So enter your system host name as a fully qualified form. So if you don't have an internal domain running at your house or office, you could just type in the name. Mine is called Alpine Pi, except I run a domain here in-house, .local, so ALPINE pi.local. Enter. And then it says, okay, well, you got to configure. I've found out that you've got, in this system, one wired Ethernet card and one wireless. What do you want to do? You want to do anything with Ethernet 0, the wired one? Why, yes, I do. So I enter on it. And what do you want the IP address for it to be? Well, I don't want it to be 192.168.1.101, which is the default answer. I would like to get an IP address from DHCP. Enter. Now, what do you want to do with WLAN 0? You can always configure this later, or you can set up a DHCP. So I'm just going to say done. Moving on. Do you want to do any manual network configuration? That would be like if you want to set up a VLAN or something like that. No, not now. You can always do it later. Now you got to change the password for, you would normally be logged in as root, so it would say changing password for root. I'm running DRushTX right now, so my old password is, that's not right. It's this, Raspberry. And what's your new password going to be? Raspberry, RASPBERRY. Oh, you're going to make me do this. Fine. Raspberry 1. RASPBERRY1. Oops. This just wants Raspberry. New password. Raspberry RASPBERRY1. One more time. Goodness gracious. Okay. RASPBERRY1. Too similar to old password. Okay. Old password, Raspberry, RASPBERRY. New password, Alpine, Alpine. Changing password. I don't know why you're going to fight me on this. Similar to host. Oh, because it's similar to host name. You are just not going to let me do this, huh? Okay. I can do this one more time. Raspberry, ISPBERRY. Too weak. Fine. Control C. Unchanged. I'm just going to walk you to, or give you some verbals on all this stuff. When I changed the password for root the first time from no password to Raspberry, it whined too weak at me twice, but it still allowed me to do it. So, okay. After this, it asks you a handful of simple questions. What time zone are you in? And you have to type it in from the way they present it in the menu. So I'm CST6CDT. You'll find yours in the menu. Is there an HTTP or FTP proxy URL? If so, you would type that in. It asks you and gives you 4 choices what kind of NTP client to run. If you don't have a preference, use their default, which is cronny. And then it asks you about where should I find my repository mirrors? And if you don't know, if you don't have a preference, just pick option 1, which stands for, and they explain it on there, find and use the fastest mirror. And then you'll see some messaging, adding mirror, adding repositories, updating the indices, things like that. Then it'll make you create a new low usage user. Give it a name, give it a password. That's where he gripes about too weak. Fine. And then he's going to ask you to enter an SSH key. If you don't have one, if you're not familiar with it, you just hit enter, which is none, default. And you'll see 2 messages come up. Installs DOAS, stands for do as. I'm going to show you do as. And then it's going to tell you it's going to run BusyBox. And then he tells you, here's what you've got installed. Here's a summary. And let me give you what you're going to see in that. APK. Oh, update. I might not have enough permission to do this. Okay, it's a good opportunity for us to explore do as. Do as is the Alpine equivalent to sudo. And the default for do as is root. So if I want to do as somebody else, I would say do as Fred, the Fred account, use his powers and do it. But just like sudo, the default is root in there. Same here. So do as APK update. Give me a password. Prove you know what you're doing here. Still Raspberry. RASPBERRY. And initially, you're going to see 22 megabytes in 39 packages. Now we've added a lot more packages because of all the work that I've done over the last couple of days. 5,400 packages available. Then it takes you to a new set of menus. Oh, it says which SSH server are you going to use? And they give you 4 servers to choose from. You probably want to use the one that everybody in the world uses, OpenSSH, which is the default. So again, hit enter. Then it'll take you to a disk management menu. If you've got multiple disks, now's the time to configure it. Tells you where you're going to store configurations. You get to pick a directory. And then you're done. You're all done. And you're now going to sit at a prompt. And you're going to need to do a couple of things to make it practical and useful. I'm going to show you a few of those. And then we're going to wind up here. So, let me check my notes what I did here first. One of the first things I wanted to do is get SSH installed. The SSH server was up and running, but no one's allowed to use it. So you had to go into a configuration menu and set up remote logins. And then we had to make sure do as works and a couple other goodies. So, the very first thing to do, as ever and always, do as update, APK update, which we just did, but I'm going to do it again. Do as APK update. All right, had enough of you, Penny Pretty. Buzz, 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 grind, grind, grind. He says, okay, I've updated your repositories. I know what needs to be updated. I know what doesn't need to be updated. So let's do it with upgrade. APK update ampersand ampersand APK upgrade doesn't work. You got to do them separate commands. There's probably a shortcut I haven't learned yet. And I have done this so often in the last couple of days, there's nothing to upgrade. But this would look just like any other sudo apt update and upgrade if you did those. But here's the funny thing. Nothing lasts unless you follow commands with lbu, that's the Linux backup or Alpine backup, commit -d. Do as. All right. So now any changes that were made with that update and upgrade, now they happen, and in the real world, you've got to do a reboot next. Okay, buzz, buzz, buzz. Then for me, the next thing I had to do so that it would work with .local is, I was logged in as root, so I didn't need do as. APK. Now we don't do install with APK like you do with apt or DNF. We do add. So if I want to add a package or install a program, it's APK add and then the name of the program. This is already installed, so it's going to gripe at us. Okay, he didn't gripe. And then I also added nano, so I don't have to use VI or Vim. And then, because some of these are services, they don't auto start. When you do APK installs, unlike apt, they don't auto launch and they don't auto set up a service. So you got to reboot after these kinds of things. Mine's up and running. I won't need to reboot. The world's a happy place. I had to, after all this, and I rebooted, set up so that I could SSH in as root. I could SSH in as the drush account already, but root logins over SSH aren't permitted. So I said sshd_config. And in this file, I had to go make a change that used to say, commented out, permit root login space prohibit password. We got rid of the comment line and we changed that line to say, permit root login space yes. All right, let's find it. Permit root, that's close enough. There it is. So this line was commented out and had a different ending. We did that. We saved the changes, exited out, and I had to restart the SSH service. And to do that, I'm going to type in the command, but I'm not going to hit enter here or I will lose my connections here. We say service sshd restart. And suddenly root can log in over SSH. So just about done. Now I can connect with SSH, use PuTTY or SSH or whatever makes us happy. And when you're logged in, what I want you to notice here, when it creates a new account, you get sent to your home directory. If you're used to any other flavor of Linux and you go to your home directory, you're going to see a downloads directory and a desktop directory and a pictures directory and a videos and so forth. There's no default directories in the home directories with this. If I do pwd, hey, I'm here at home in drushtx, but if I do ls, nothing. If I want to see it all, there's a .ash history file, and that's it. And that's just so I can do this. Up arrows. So I want to do one other thing. Let's install a real program that's not already installed. Let's set up a web server on here. So I'll use do as apk add, and we'll add everybody's favorite Apache, APACHE2. Oh, let's go see if it's there. How about apk search Apache? All right. See a lot of Apache 2 stuff. Apache 224. Oh, this is it. Apache 2. We don't need all that dash dot and all that good stuff. Apache 2 is the name, and that works. And I think there's a bare Apache 2 hiding out here. So let's do that now. We're going to, beg your pardon, do as apk add Apache 2. Buzz, 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 grind, grind, grind. That's it. That was the fastest Apache install that I've ever done. So let's go hit it. So I'm going to open up a Brave browser window. Got to go over here to Brave. There's a new tab. That's my active one. Okay. You're not doing good stuff for me here, stranger. Let me try that. Oh, some days it's just not worth it. Sandbox, Wireshark. Why am I not getting this window? Okay, that works. All right, well, I'm going to have to describe it because it really kind of bites. What you'll do next is you'll open up your favorite browser and put in either the name of your URL or the IP address and hit enter. And you know what you're going to get? Nothing. It's not going to work because, as we said, these things don't start automatically. You either have to reboot or start the service. Let me go try failure here and see one more time here. Let's try Alpine Pi. I know you can't see it. Standby .local. And now he's going buzz, 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 grind, grind, grind. Site can't be reached, which is what I expect and what I want. Brave browser window. Okay, let's launch a new instance of Brave. New window. It's just not going to buy it today. I don't know why. Okay. Well, at any rate, we don't need it. Simple decision. So all we have to do to get it up and running is start the Apache 2 service. We'll say do as, and it doesn't use system control to start services. It uses RC service. It's a little more efficient than system CTL. So we'll do as RC service Apache 2 and start it. And he goes buzz, 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 grind, grind, grind. And now if I could bring up my browser window tab. Yeah, I know, nothing's on the screen with command line. I know. Because I'm fighting and frustrated and let me see if by odd chance that caused anything to come up. Not a thing. All right, well, let's just go back to camera then. That's a camera. You'll just have to take my word. that now when I went to alpinepie.local, it says it works. And so now we've got a running server. So nothing wrong with Alpine. It's just all the marvelous interactions between OBS and the various programs that we've got running. It's cool. It's simple. It's easy to use. And that's about it. Oh, let's say we want to get rid of a service. Let's go back to command line. Oh, now you can't see this. Stand by. Do that. Do this. Go to OBS. Putty up here. Face up here. Over. All right, so if I want to uninstall something, first of all, if the service is running, we'll stop it. So I'll do a do as rc service Apache 2 stop. And then to get rid of it, this is a really cool piece of it. I love this part. Do as apk, and since we added, we delete to get rid of it. What we're getting rid of, Apache 2. Now check this out. Besides the fact that it's blindingly fast, notice that it doesn't just delete, it purges everything. So it's completely clean and completely clear. And I love that because so many times I'll remove something in Ubuntu or Raspberry Pi OS, and then you got to do 2 other steps to purge it and get rid of any residual stuff. Oh, what else did I have here? Just a couple other notes here to share with you verbally. We did the do as. Where was the one cool thing that I want to tell you about? I lost it. Adds and deletes and install packages. Oh well. It's lost. It's gone. It's a great Linux distro. I know, I'm 8 minutes over. That's how it goes. It's easy to use. It's easy to install. It's easy to figure out if you've done any kind of playing on any kind of Linux. Anything that you get stuck by, hey, I tried to run APT. That doesn't work. Just do your favorite search engine and say APT on Alpine Linux. And it'll say, well, the Alpine doesn't use it. It uses APK. And then you can look up how to use APK. All right, let's see if anybody's got any final messages and communications, and then we'll close things down. Joey Quetzal made it, our Colorado friend. All right, let me get caught up, see who's well there. I love some of your messages. Forced security, absolutely. Passwords are infuriating. Ugh, I don't know why. I should not have tried that without actually doing it and being successful. I fired up Alpine Setup and said, hey, look, it comes up as so it's probably going to run fine. Yay, Joey's here. Gotcha. Catch you all, says Tullowit. Okay. Oh, somebody to leave. Coffee making. All right. That winds everybody up. Thank you for coming in, Joey. You'll have to catch the beginning, as you already noted. So it was a little bit jumbled. At the beginning of the show, we talk about how I'm solving this problem with a new piece of equipment that I've ordered, and then we won't have to SSH all the time. We can work native, and that's going to solve boatloads of problems. So we're going to wind things up. I ran a little bit long. There will be a show next week on the 21st. There will be a show the following week on the 28th. And then we will start up in the year 2024. Wow, huh? How fast does that stuff sneak up on you? So as ever and always, here we are halfway through December and 11 and a half months in the rest of the year I wish you a great rest of the week. Please take care of each other. Take serious steps to stay healthy, and if at all are possible, call or visit your parents. And never forget, technology is great, but the greatest resource we have are still you and I. And with that, good night. I'll see you on ADRAMADA next week and on the other platforms that I'm on. Until then, remember, how you do anything is how you do everything. Eep, op, ork, ah. Later all.